Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It is pretty much the end of the year, and as you can tell by the title of the video, I am doing a spark plug change on the Tundra today. Before I get started, I just want to take the time to say thank you to everyone for the support, subscriptions, and views to the channel. This channel wouldn't be what it is today without the viewers, obviously. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And now on to the video. You obviously want to start out by removing the engine cover. For those that aren't familiar with spark plug changes, your spark plugs are going to be right here. This is your ignition coil, so this gets removed, and then down in there's your spark plug. I will show you how to do all that, but first we have to remove some of this upper hoses, wirings, to be able to get access down into there, or make our access a lot easier. And as well as this side, we'll want to remove our air intake tube and any air hoses, air lines, and electrical components that may be in the way, to make the task much easier. I'm going to start on the driver's side, and before we get to our ignition coils, I want to make it a little bit easier to work around here by loosening up some things. I removed this plastic harness from the electrical wiring from this bolt, and there's another one similar to that here, which I will show you how to do, which is with your flat blade screwdriver. Okay, got the screwdriver wedged in there, and I kind of wiggle it to bring it up a bit. Like that. Get that out of the way. This could potentially be in the way also, so I'm also going to remove that. Okay. Now to remove this little bracket for better visual purposes, it's impossible to get a screwdriver underneath, but you should be able to get underneath that tab. Like that with the screwdriver, and then pull it off the bracket. Like that. Now to remove our wire harness from the ignition coil, you press down on this tab. You do it with your finger. And then pull up. Using your finger doesn't always work. I always use a small tool like this, adjustable crescent wrench. I don't recommend using it, but I used it plenty of times in the past to remove wire harnesses that are really hard to take off. And as long as you're careful, you can. So you press, and like that. Next one. Press, and I'm only using the pliers to press. I'm not using them to pull the harness up like that, because if you press too hard and pull up at the same time, you could risk breaking this locking tab. rendering your wire harness useless, and it could vibrate out of place when driving. Next one. Okay, press. And then the last one. Press. I don't know if the camera can get that, but here, try to get over here.
I can't. I don't know this one.
Okay, press and then up. Alright, and that is how to successfully use just small adjustable crescent wrench to remove your wire harness for the ignition coils. Now we're ready to remove our ignition coils. That looks like a 10mm head bolt. And I'm gonna go ahead and crack all of those. This is in the way. We'll come back to that one. I'm gonna have to use a wrench instead of a ratchet and socket. Alright. Back to this one. Currently use a socket and ratchet there because this is in the way. But a wrench could definitely fit. It helps you have ratcheting one. Alright. Now we're ready to remove our ignition coils. Wiggle it out. And make sure this rubber comes off with it. Rubber gasket sometimes it gets left behind on the engine. And that is our first ignition coil. To remove your spark plug, you got an old one here. Your spark plug is going to be down in that hole, and it's a long ways down there. There is more than one correct way to do this, but it's going to be a 5/8 socket. Fits nice and snug. The most common and obvious way to do it is a socket and a 6-inch extension, like this, down in there. Not always possible depending on what's in your way, but in some places it is. And then you got your magnetic sockets, which are these. I got a regular magnetic one and a universal one. And there are also some sockets that have the rubber inside them, and they're called spark plug sockets that'll allow the socket to get trapped in there, and then you pull it out. And then another way you can do it is use a piece of fuel line like this. What you would do is you would crack loose your spark plug, and then you put this on in there like that, and then you would twist it out like that and then pull it out. The downside to using this is not so much whenever you're using it to remove your spark plug, but to install your new one. Since this is curved, you could risk cross-threading it, so you want to make sure you use a piece of few line that as straight as possible like this. I'm going to use my universal magnetic one and a 6-inch extension to be able to clear this, because this is in the way. And you should be able to feel it seat down in there, and you connect your ratchet and you crack it loose. But before that, if you have access to an air compressor, it would be wise to blow some air down in there because you don't want any debris going down in the hole. So we got our universal magnetic socket and an extension. And you want to keep it as straight as possible. And there it is. The downside to using an extension in the socket is that sometimes you may think you're ready to pull it out and it's not fully unthreaded. And if you got a worn out extension, it could come undone inside the hole. What you would do there is they sell locking extensions to where the only way you can make it become undone is by sliding down the locking mechanism, or you just simply put tape around it and to prevent it from coming undone if you got an old worn out extension. But there's our spark plug. We got our new spark plugs here, and that is item number SK20HR11, which is the same as the old one. And these are supposed to be pre-gapped, but I always like to double check. It's supposed to be 0.044. I'm gonna check the old one. And it stops about right there. And wherever you get these from, your auto parts store, online, if the box is damaged in any way, just return them, because there's a possibility that if the box landed on the floor or got crushed in any way and this got bent inwards, that's going to alter your spark plug gap. Yep. 044. Okay, now this step is completely optional. Some people don't like to do it. Some people do, but what I usually do is I get some silicone paste and I dab some on my finger and put it in here like that, or at the base of the spark plug. So I'm going to take a little bit. Like that. Put it on your socket, and we're ready to install a new one. Also, there's no need to put any anti-seize compound on the threads, because these are nickel plated, so technically that's already your anti-seize compound. So you want to keep the extension as straight as possible, and it shouldn't be difficult at all to thread the spark plug in. If you're feeling resistance, more than likely you're cross threading it. So what I do is I usually pull out, and if there's no spark plug in there, then it's probably seated and threaded in there already. I'm going to continue. Still no resistance, which means we're on the right track. And then you can introduce your ratchet in there. Alright, I'm starting to feel some resistance. Just gonna hand tighten it. I'm gonna come back to it because we do have to torque these down still. Alright. Magnetic, no wobble or universal, because I always try to use a straight one when I can. Okay, second one. I switched to my Husky ratchet because this one has this mechanism to allows you to flex it, and this one doesn't. And it's longer, so it gives me more leverage. Stop when you feel resistance. Now on to the next one. This thing right here is kind of in the way from letting you pull out your ignition coil. You just have to try your best to push it without breaking it. Like that. Again, make sure you're seated. All right, and we're in business. On to the fourth one on this side. Okay, we are done installing our spark plugs on the driver's side. Now to torque them down. The torque specs for the Tundra on the spark plugs call for 15 pounds per square feet of torque. But me personally, I've never liked using an actual torque wrench to torque them down. For one is sometimes you can't always get a torque wrench in all the holes. So what ends up happening, you torque down some of them to 15 and you do some of them by hand. I've never liked that. what I've always done is follow the instructions on the box. A lot of them have this little image where you torque it down by hand, or you tighten it by hand with a ratchet by hand, and then a quarter to a half turn after hand tightening, and then 1/16 of a turn to finish it off. And that's usually what I go by. I already have my ratchet here in place. It's already tightened down by hand. And then I'm gonna go between a quarter and a half turn and tighten down again. And a 16th of a turn, which isn't much. Like that. And that feels pretty tight to me. It may not be an exact 15 pound-feet of torque, but like I said, I've never liked doing it that way, and it's never failed me before. It's already hand tightened. Now a quarter to a half turn. And then a 16th of a turn. And tighten, quarter to a half turn, and then a 16th of a turn to finish it off. And tighten, quarter to a half turn, and 16th of a turn. And that's it. We're ready to install our ignition coils. Now, I really don't think it matters, but I am putting the same ignition coils on the same hole that they were in, just in case the computer maps them. So I believe this one came in through here. Press that down. Okay, now to connect our wire harness back on, make sure you hear it click. That one didn't click, but nope. You should hear an audible click. There it is. There it is. Click. Again for this one. Click. Click. Now we're ready to install this back on. And then this little plastic piece goes right there. Right, this goes in there. Like that. Should also be able to hear it click. And last but not least, rotate this around back onto this bolt. Like that. Same for this one. And we're all set. I was about to start making this video for the spark plug change on the passenger side when I realized that I think this video may be a little too long because I like to show all the spark plugs, resulting in a longer video. What I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this video into two parts, driver side and passenger side. With that being said, that concludes the driver side spark plug change video. Please stay tuned for the passenger side spark plug change on the Toyota Tundra. Thank you all for watching.